begin the meeting of the Finance Committee. There's some background noise going on. I hope somebody can mute it as soon as possible.
That's the judge.
This is a meeting. Okay, thank you, Judge. This is a finance meeting concerning our bonding for our allocations for city paving. Mike Mahoney, you requested to see if we can get this amount to you as soon as possible, whatever the council deems necessary. Would you please tell the council why we need this paving amount so you can start your bidding? You have the floor, sir.
Well, in order to get the best price for paving, you need to go out as soon. Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. So the sooner you can go out in the spring to get your bid, the better pricing, obviously, the further I can stretch paving dollars. So, once you decide how much you're going to allot for the year for paving, whether it's 5 million or less, and then, we'll put our program together, and then we'll put the bid out. I'd like to have the bid out in February to get the best possible pricing. Did you hear me on that?
Michael?
Yeah. So I just want to add, so the past couple of years, the capital plan has come out after the budget. Often, there's a lot of discussion that goes back and forth. There are a variety of reasons why it came out, and really the capital plan needs to come out at the same time with the budget. We actually had it ready last year, but it was ready to come out with the budget. But because of the pandemic, we decided to hold off, and we all know that story. It really should be coming out, the paving, earlier. As Mike mentioned, we need the authorization to go out. The council has to provide the authorization, or we can't even advertise because we can't award. So it's really important that if we want the better pricing, we get it out a little earlier. Also, because even the $3 million that we had last year, our engineering department was struggling really into the fall trying to get all the work done, physically done and closed up, because there's a lot of things that go on with curbs and with sewer covers. And it was like beat the clock just to have it done before the asphalt plants close. This year, but go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted, part of the problem and why it took such a long time to get the program done was because of supplies for COVID. Obviously things shut down, so it was tough to get stuff. So it did, and I anticipate having the same problem this year as well. So, the sooner we can get going, the better, so we can get out to the suppliers and get stuff ordered.
So by doing this also adds another kind of different flavor in that we'll have our paving done early. So as the fall approaches, we can get focused on our parks. We've been doing a number of projects in our parks and getting things really closed up for the coming winter. And the past couple of years, we just haven't been able to do it. We haven't had the time, and it's really about our engineering department being so focused on the paving, like literally from April all through the summer and the fall, and trying to get it done earlier. So that's part of the reason why Mike and myself reached out to Councilman Miola and requested consideration.
Mr. Chairman,
I'd also like to mention it's not the first time you've gone out early as well. If you remember back a few years ago when I had some assistance from Frank Femia, we also pushed to go out in February for the best bid. So it's not that this is the first year we've done this. We've been trying to push it early to get the best price.
Mike, what is the administration saying to the council about the amount of money that we're going to allocate in 2021? Because we have to always have an ordinance changing the local law and the charter that says 5 million. If you're gonna do less than 5 million, you gotta pass an ordinance to do that, and then put it in the budget. Have the council leaders and the executive branch come to any agreement on that amount? Anybody
Which
want to answer
Mike
that
were you
question?
asking?
Well, I'm asking, you know, the charter provides 5 million. So we passed an ordinance that reduced it to 3 million, as I recall. And you have to do that, but you don't do that unless there's some sort of quid pro quo between the executive branch and the legislative branch. Has that particular number been decided on?
So, if,
Well, actually, so hold on a second. The answer is no. This council has not entertained or passed any ordinance to modify the $5 million for the 2021-2022 budget.
Yeah, I thought that that's what this meeting was about, is getting a meeting of minds of what the common council wants to do about that situation, with the finance committee recommending to the full body whether they're going to pass an ordinance or not. And what's the amount going to be? Or is it? Go ahead.
If I can make a comment towards that, since we're still in COVID and with supplies being tough to get, I honestly don't know if I can pull off a $5 million program for you. I would suggest that we reduce it to $3 million one more year. That's my thoughts on it. I'm the one that has
Jody, you got, thank you, Michael. Joe, you got your hand up. Want to give it a shot?
Yes, I'll give it a shot. So I don't have any, I understand. First, I want to say, Mr. Mahoney, you guys did a great job with the paving with the money that we had this year. And it wasn't like the year before. You got stuff done. The guys were working. I thought they did a great job. Secondly, I'm a little bit confused by this whole process here. We have $5 million that we're supposed to allot. Okay, we all said last year we cut it back because of the pandemic 1 year. I have no problem pushing this through. The problem I have is I haven't seen a budget yet. So how do you want me to come and vote less when we haven't seen what the budget's going to be? So and we all spoke last year, just for speaking on my own part, that we were doing this for 1 year. And, I mean, I get it. If the city can't do this right now, then we need to do something. We need to bring it back to the people and explain to the people, let them vote on it. But the people, all I've been hearing for a year on the council is overturning resolutions. And we all, as a council, I would bet if you went back and taped every one of us last year, we all said we were doing this for 1 year. So at this point, number one, I don't see a budget. I would think in the general fund, our general fund has got to be up. I know we probably can't touch 2020's general fund, but I would think without, there was a lot of money that we didn't do a lot of programs last year. So, and we're bonding here, so we're only paying off the bond. So it's not like it's a ton of money here. So at this point, I don't know how any of us can sit there and say that we're only going to do $3,000 and we're not going to bond for what we said we were going to do last year. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'd like to see the budget before I make any choices on anything.
Joey, all set?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Frank. Thank you.
I'm going to
Mark, you have the table. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Michael.
COVID going for 2 years either. I think we were all hoping we'd be done with it. But I think you all know that we're in for this for another 6 to 8 months at least. So I'm just being absolutely honest on what I can put together for you. So, I mean, why?
Mark, you're next.
Borrow more money and have it sit in an account that you're paying interest on.
Okay, my question is for Heather. Heather, you there?
I am.
Okay, The question is, if we bond for the 2.5 million as per the referendum, and if we don't spend it all, because you can't get to it, what happens with the excess money? Does it revert back to?
No, so if we were to borrow 2.5 million, it would sit there until the following year. We'd get to pay interest on it. Now the interest is rather low at the moment. It would sit there, but and Mike would have to address this. I don't know that we could do $7.5 million in paving the next year. The city would be pretty ripped up. And so it's a struggle to get 5 million. It's not so much about going and paving, and Mike, you can jump in here. It's not so much about just let's pave Campbell Street or Van Rowan. It's about making sure that we have inspectors up there, that we have the right curbs, that we have the right curb cuts, that we have the flow of traffic, that we cut out for all the manhole covers that have to be raised and lowered. So it's easy to say, let's go pave Kemble or wherever. There's just a lot of other things that go on, and they're not all done at the same time. And so there's also a flood of money being put out there on infrastructure throughout the state. And 2 years ago, and Mike can also talk about this, 2 years ago, we didn't even think we could do 5 million because we couldn't get the concrete. We couldn't get the blacktop. They were paving part of the flight line at the base. We physically couldn't get blacktop. And so we were right up. And in fact, it was quite an issue on the radio about it because one of the mayoral candidates was saying, the plants are going to close mid-October, and they actually were open until the middle of November. And we were paving until after Election Day because we couldn't spend the money fast enough. So that's not really an issue to deal with the 5 million versus 3 million, but it's not just if the money sits there, can we use it the next year? It's just, I don't know. And Mike, can you please jump in here if we can physically do $7.5 million in 1 year?
That would be a pretty big stretch because the biggest thing is if it was just mill and fill, if I'm just milling the street and filling it with blacktop, that's fine. I could do that all day long. The problem is it's all the structures. It's doing all the handicap accessible corners. I have to prove to the state that those handicap accessible corners are dead on. There's a lot of laws concerning them. So the way we get, the way we can get around, not that we're getting around it, but the way that we're doing the handicap accessibility is we only do the corners when we pave. So, that's a huge component to paving. So to do $7.5 million, that's a lot. That's a big stretch. And I just don't, if the money is going to sit there and interest free, that's one thing, but I just can't imagine it's not going to cost us anything.
Oh, Mr. President, let me go back up a little bit. When you approve the budget, there are certain things that have to be in the budget. Now, as I recall the last legislation, it was a 1-year deal. Therefore, you have to go back to the 5 million again, because you only excused the 5 million, I think, for that budget. So you put 3 million, as I recall. That's what the ordinance said, which is okay. Now, before this budget is adopted and before this budget is prepared and sent here, there has to be a figure in there for the paving. And the figure in the paving, unless there's some legislation that says otherwise, is 5 million. I think the way the present legislation stands. That's why this is a good meeting, because you can't put the cart before the horse. You've got to decide whether you're going to pass an ordinance again, allowing the budget to show a 3 million paving rather than a 5 million paving, which had been the law that you had a right to modify. Because you go down, that's okay. You can't go up. So this $7.5 million you're talking about sort of confuses me a little bit. You approved $3 million last year. I don't know what you spent, but this year, according to the way I'm thinking now, you have an obligation to put a 5 million allocation in the budget because the charter said so. And we only forgave 1 year of budgetary time, as I recall. So that means a new ordinance determining how much you're going to put in the 21-22 budget. Now, I think at some time with this meeting and shortly thereafter, somebody has to make a decision whether you're going to introduce legislation. I have to look at the old legislation. I have to think it was for one budget year.
It was Judge Garamone, it definitely was. I don't have it with me right now, but I looked at it last week.
All right. If you confirm that, that means
Yeah.
you still have a $5 million obligation.
Right.
And so, and if you don't
Okay,
think that
thank you, Your Honor.
for this coming year,
I didn't
because of
finish
COVID and
my-
everything
Frank.
else, you can do that. You'd have to say,
Okay, Mark.
for the new budget, you'd go to 3 million, or whatever you figure you pick.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mark?
Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Yes.
We understand. Hey,
Yes, Your Honor.
and Heather,
I'm not
Put
thinking
my hand
about
up for a little
policy, I'm
while.
thinking about legislation.
number 2, Heather, is geez, I just had it. So, yeah, could you educate us on? I remember you telling me about 5 years ago when this thing was passed that it was going to become an albatross in funding after a while. Is it getting to that point where it's costing us too much to pay for this? That was going to be, according to the comptroller, when we first passed this, about the 5th year, it was supposed to start straining the budget. And we haven't heard anything since. And if we're going to bring it back to a referendum to lower it, then the public needs to be educated.
It's not a referendum, Frank.
Well,
It's
an
not a
ordinance.
referendum.
But
It's
no, what-
just
I'm,
it's an
talking,
ordinance.
I'm talking about the paving plan itself.
No, that's Councilman Williamson. The judge is correct. I was going to reference that later at the meeting. If the council wanted to do that, it doesn't have to be a referendum. You can choose to do a referendum on anything you want.
It's not a referendum.
Exactly.
It's definitely not a referendum.
No,
It's nothing
I'm
more
talking,
than an
do we
ordinance.
continue with the paving plan? That's what I'm trying to get at.
So,
I understand where you're coming from, Mark. I understand.
so the answer.
All right, could we wait 1 minute?
Yes.
Heather, can you hold out 1 minute? Celeste had her hand up for a while. I'd like to address her concerns. Celeste, you have the floor.
Thank you, Frank. I just have a couple of things. I think we're really getting ahead of ourselves, worrying that if we had $5 million this year and we didn't spend all of it, then we'd have $7.5 million the next year, and we couldn't possibly do that much work in 1 year. That's just really getting ahead of ourselves. So there's that. But I'd like to go back to Mr. Mahoney. Mike, why would it, given that we're getting out earlier, which I think is great, and I remember from last year that was an issue, since we're potentially getting out there earlier, why, can you sort of drill down on this question of why we're not going to be able to spend $5 million if we're starting this process much earlier, getting our RFP in much earlier, et cetera?
I'm concerned about supplies. That's all. It's castings and it's granite curb. Those are my biggest concerns. I feel we'll probably be able to get concrete. I'm sure we'll be able to get blacktop, but it's castings and granite curb. That's what I'm worried about.
So the castings is what you were referring to in terms of handicap accessible corners. Is that right?
No, well, it's not only handicap. There are steel plates for the detectable warning field, but the castings I'm referring to is all the structures that are in the street. When,
okay.
I mean, the worst part of our streets is the structures get beat down and they crack and they get destroyed. We replace them as we pave. It's necessary.
Okay, so just by structures, you mean like sewer covers, things like that, drains?
Yep.
That's what you.
Yep. There's a whole
So metal. These are metal castings.
unit. It's
Right.
There's a whole unit that holds up the frame and covers. So you got to get the whole thing.
Right.
And then you
Right.
got to get the rings to
Okay,
get it
that's
up to
what
the
you mean
right
by
rank.
cast.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along with it.
Right, okay, that makes sense, thank you. I guess,
You're
yeah.
welcome.
Well, we're starting much earlier though, potentially. So wouldn't that make it more likely that we could get the castings that we need and the granite curbs?
It's not, we have been starting, I've been trying to go out to bid in February for the last few years. This is nothing new. Last year we went out in March. We didn't quite make February because we sent all the staff home. So, I mean, we're putting the program together. I mean, I have a list of 75 streets. We have 75 streets drawn. So it's not like the engineering department can't put it out. I can put it out, but I don't want to put out something that's unrealistic.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
I got another question, Frank.
Celeste? Okay, Mark, you got the, wait a minute, I think Joey, go ahead.
Mike Mahoney, the Disabilities Act for the curbs has to be done by what, 2023? Was that the deadline you had before? About 10 years ago?
2025.
2025, that all the streets got to be completed.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about that is you have to have a program, and we do. We do it as we pave the streets. So we are working towards that. Will we have every corner done by 2025? Probably not.
That's great.
Joey, do you still have a question?
Yes,
Joe Beatrice?
Yes, I'm here. I have a couple questions. Mr. Mahoney, so when you're talking about the drains and everything, you're telling me that every street that you guys pave, you replace the drain, the manhole cover and all that? You replace every one?
No, not everyone, only if needed.
Only if needed,
But
okay.
but we still have to order plenty in stock.
Okay,
What
all right.
happens is we order a certain amount, and then whatever, in a typical year, we figure out how many we think we need, and then anything that we don't use, we buy from the paving company, and then DPW has them in stock.
In stock, okay. Okay, and Heather, and to, because I'm gonna come to my next point, but Heather, I want to, you mentioned this bonding, that the interest rate is quite low right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I think. This is just my opinion. So we said we were gonna do this for 1 year, and we were gonna bring it back to 5 million. So why wouldn't we borrow the 5 million? And if we can't get anything done, we have, let's say we got 2 million left in the kitty. And when we're in this situation next year, now we can come back and say, okay, now we borrow 3 million next year. I mean, we made an attempt, and if just go that way, if you can't do the 7 million, and it was a problem. I mean,
it doesn't work that way, Joe. This is the
why?
problem. I put a bid out. I put a bid with a certain amount. So unless I was going to do, I do several bids. I don't have a problem doing several bids. Obviously, you get your best pricing on your first bid the earliest you go out.
Okay.
So say I do a bid, 3 million. Just hear me out. Say I do a bid for $3 million because that's what I figure I can do. Figuring that if it goes well, that I'm going to come out, I'm going to do a bid for another $2 million. It's going to be midsummer. Number one, people aren't hungry in midsummer. So the pricing goes through the roof. So I'm just trying to get you the best bang for your buck. That's all I'm trying to do.
And I
have been doing that for several, it's not like it's my first time. I've been doing this for years.
I'm not questioning you. What I'm questioning you is you kept making a statement, why borrow money and leave it and don't spend it and pay tax on it? So what I'm asking you is, if you go out for bonding for 5 million and all of a sudden we couldn't do that and you didn't spend all 5 million, you got 2 million left next year. So next year we'd only have to bond for 3 million instead of bonding for the 5. That's all I'm saying. I don't think.
Well, I mean, what is the repercussion? It's coming back from the council because you know what? It's not my first rodeo. Everybody likes to pick and choose against the administration. So you guys borrow 5 million or money's to make it 5 million, and I only do 3. And is it going to be a crisis in the paper because Mike only did $3 million? I'm sorry. I'm not putting myself in that position. I'm not having my name on a headline that Mike Mahoney failed. Okay, sorry. I am projecting what I can do. And you guys can do whatever you want. And I'll
Okay. Okay.
I'm the one that ends up on the front paper. It's like when I didn't do sidewalks for Fashion Coalition. Oh, it was a headline because I didn't do the sidewalks for that price.
So you want me to put my name in the paper to say that the people voted for 5 million, but we cut it down to 3 million? That's what you want me to do?
I think it's responsible to our community to do this for one more year, which is what I'm suggesting. But you guys do what you want. I don't care.
No, Mike, I mean, there's no reason to get hostile. I'm just going by what you said. You're saying if we borrow 5 million, okay, you're saying if we borrow 5 million, you don't think you can get it done. And if you went and did it the best you could, and because you couldn't get the drains and you couldn't get the stuff and only got 3 million done, I don't think that's a crime at all. I think everybody tried their best.
I don't think you're listening to how we do the bid. I put the bid out in February to get the best price. So if you want a bond for $5 million, I'm putting a $5 million program out there. If it doesn't get done, it's just money sitting out there.
Okay, that's what I'm asking you. So the money's sitting there at a low rate, and the following year you just borrow less money. That's all I'm asking you. I'm confused. Heather says to borrow the money, it's at a very low rate. You're saying if we bring the money, the problem is you might not be able to get it done, but you might be able to get it done. So if you try your best and you can't get it done, I don't think anybody is gonna attack or point fingers at you if you can't get the supplies to do 5 million and only do 3 million. That's all I'm trying to say. I mean, I just want to do what.
And the one thing I do want to add is that part of the problem is, as Mike was mentioning, you can't just go out and say, do you want to do 3 or do you want to do 5 million when they go out to put this package out for bids. He has to say, we want to do these
5 million.
We want to do these 10 roads. What's the price? Because it's all based on what they can do. That's how they pick and choose what they're even going to bid on. If they know they've already bid on 5 jobs and they only have time to do, $2 million worth of work, and we put out 5, they're not going to bid. Okay, so if we put out for 5 and they put a price in for 5, okay, it doesn't mean we're going to get that price if we're only doing 3.
Listen. Okay, I said my piece. You
Joey,
guys said yours. Yeah, I'm good.
I have one question.
Thank you, Joey. Devin, you got your hand
Yes,
up. Would you like to talk?
yes. My question is,
On the floor.
it seemed like we're saying 2 things. It seemed like we're saying, number one, we can't afford it. We can't afford the $5 million because of COVID or this and other in 2021 and 2022. And then they're also saying that you can't spend it. So is it a combination of the two, or is it one or the other?
So it's actually one other element. Just as we were, 10 months ago, we don't know what's going to happen. Okay, we've been told for about 8 months that we weren't going to get all our state aid for this current year. That we were only going to get 80% of it, leaving us a hole of $3.2 million in our present budget. Yesterday, the state budget director, during the state budget address, did announce that we're going to get 15 of that 20% we weren't going to get. So for this year, the current 2021 year, we have a hole, and we've saved money by furloughs and some other things, but our state aid was reduced by $800,000. Now, the state budget was presented yesterday, and in the governor's budget, he reduced state aid for our city by 5%. Some cities were reduced by 20%. There was a calculation that was performed. But at any point, the legislature could step in, and the legislature could say, because of their problems at the state level, that our state aid could get cut 30%, 50%. You might say, well, they could do that every year. They could, but last year and this year are unique years. Just as it relates to money. I mean, and when the mayor presents his budget on February 1st to the Board of E&A, you'll hear a little bit more, and you'll see, and I know I got you the department estimates on Friday, there are revenues that aren't coming in. And so we're being a little more aggressive in certain areas. You're going to hear a little bit more about that tonight from Brian Thomas as it relates to a legislation in front of you for a grant and what we're going to be looking to do with parking machines for our garages. So there's just a lot going on, and there isn't a day that I don't come in nauseous. I mean, I've been nauseous for 10 months because it isn't the way that it was a year ago. I can't, there's nothing we can depend on. And so you kind of got this pandemic, and you've got the supplies that we don't know are going to be there, combined with, well, okay, we could put out a $3 million bid or a $5 million bid, but if we're going to put out 5, they're going to want to be paid for 5, because they now have reserved their workers to come to the city of Utica to do work, and now we're telling them we're not going to do it. And so we can't do that. We're going to pay a penalty for that. And then the other point, which Councilman Williamson brought up, and I think you were alluding to too, Councilman, was, okay, can we afford to pay for this? And that's a really big discussion to have. I will tell you, from the big picture, both our rating agencies, Standard & Poor's and Moody's, have said that our debt is elevated, and it is. At the end of March, the end of 2 months from now, we will have debt in the amount of $52 million. That's hot, kind of high. That includes the 10 million we borrowed, the 10.5 million we borrowed for the street lights. So that kind of elevated it a little bit. But next year, it will come down a little bit. But let's remember one really important thing. We really didn't do anything to any of our firehouses or our police station last year. We didn't borrow any of the money that we really needed to borrow, but we put it off one more year. We have a roof here at City Hall, which is going to cost about $400,000 that we can't fix. And right now, if you were to walk up on the 3rd floor, you will see various areas where water leaks in our roof. We have roofing problems at 3 of our fire stations. We actually had to go and do some emergency repairs at $100,000 a couple of months ago because the bats, it's a very long story, but over on Bleecker Street. We have a police station that needs updating. And so all of these things got put on hold, and they have been put on hold to some extent the past 2 or 3 years because we had to borrow the $5 million for the paving, because if our debt gets too high, then our interest costs are going to go up because our bond rating is going down.
So if I can, I think my personal frustration, and maybe a few others on the council, is that it's almost that we're rehashing this paving plan that went for referendum and that everybody agreed upon. And I think the frustration is that even the city engineer and others have said is that if we don't do the $5 million paving plan that the city residents accepted, then who becomes the next headline in the OD, or who becomes the next target? On the flip side, though, if the paving plan that was presented through the referendum is not good, what's the alternative, so that way we can stop making other excuses for the fact that we have a bad paving plan if we believe the paving plan is bad? So it's not the pandemic, because I honestly feel, be it the pandemic or the other capital projects that we have, we'll be back here in 2022, we'll be back here in 2023. But the reality is we don't like the paving plan. So my question is, what's the alternative so we're not back here next year? Finding another excuse to get back to the fact that the $5 million may not be the best plan that we have.
Thank you, Councilman Moody.
Go ahead, Frank.
Heather, can I interject for one moment? Colleagues, I do feel that because of the facts that Heather did deliver to the table today and a financial method of getting this resolved would be simple. I think that if we get together and we do pass this legislation that's in front of us and going into debt for $5 million, that's a $3 million total paving. During our year, if we do see more money come in from the state, if we do see more money coming from the federal government, if we do see more money coming towards the fund balance, I don't want one of our roofs to cave in on the middle of the year and then find out that we don't have the money to bond for it because our bond rating is going in the toilet. So to keep flexible, colleagues, the word is flexible. Keep our finances flexible. Our best avenue right now is to take the advice of our budget director to continue our flexibility for the year. Now, of course, Heather, if you do find money and you do see a chunk of money coming from the state is something that you didn't count on, I believe that it would be very kind of you to notify my colleagues so they can decide either to put it towards our debt, that 5 million, or to put it towards more paving mid-year, because we can always do additional patching. We can always do additional sidewalks. We can always do more paving for the city, city taxpayers during the year. So, council, this is an ordinance. It's a simple ordinance. If it doesn't have unanimous tonight, it will sit in committee. Your thoughts on the proposal I put in front of you? Anybody got their hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, Councilman. Councilman DeBrango here.
Frankie DeBrango, you have the floor.
I just want to talk to Heather for a minute.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we decide to borrow the 2.5 million for the paving plan, it's going to be an anticipation note, right? So
No, all we're borrowing is 5 million, Frank.
No, we already have 2.5 million through CDBG.
Chips and CDBG.
So what I'm saying, I'm just talking about the paving plan. The 2.5 million, if we borrow it to bring it up to 5 million. Okay, so you already have 2.5 million allocated through CDBG. And I believe the sewer fund, I'm not sure about that, but all right. So now if we borrow that, you're not going to make the payment of 2.5, whatever it is, $200-something-thousand payment this year coming up 21 to 22. You're going to pay the interest. Am I right?
That's
60,000 or whatever it may be.
Correct.
So if we borrow the money now for the paving, and from what I hear, I'm hearing good news from the federal government that they're going to allocate some money. The state's going to get some money. The city's going to get some money. Why don't we just borrow it? Let's use the 5 million for paving, go out, bid for 5 million of paving. If the company can't complete the 5 million of paving, that's up to them. They'll have to come through with $5 million worth of work. If the engineer foresees that they can't, and they have to end at 3 million or 4 million, whatever it may be, so be it. We still have the money. We'll use it next year. But what I'm trying to say is, if we bond for it now, and we do get some money in from the federal government or the state, whatever it may be, then we could pay off our debt. And we're not paying anything but interest in the next fiscal year. So I'm for 5 million. I'm going to support the 5 million. This is what the people voted for. This is what the law is, and I'm going to follow the law. We did it last year because of the pandemic. I understand. I think we'll probably hopefully be through with the pandemic by fall. I'm hoping with the vaccines and everything. I know I can't predict the future, but I foresee a positive outcome hopefully before the year's end. So I figure if we borrow the money now, if we get some money from the federal government, get that money and pay it towards our debt, so it would knock down our debt. That's my opinion. That's what I'm going to stick with. So I just want to let everybody know that's how I feel.
Okay, Frankie. Celeste, you have your hand up again, or?
I do. Thank you, Frank. I agree with everything that Frank DeBrango just said. I agree with Delvin. I agree with Joe Beatrice. I think that we need to bond for the 2.5 so that we spend a total of 5 million. Mike, I totally get where you're coming from in terms of being worried that you can't actually do it. And I hereby commit in this public meeting, if anybody gives you a hard time in the paper, you can send them to me. And I don't know how much.
I'm used to the council not listening
I know.
to me, so that's not perfect.
But honestly, I'm being honest, right? Like, I'm always happy to get out in front of the public and try to explain why we did what we did. I don't think that you should take the heat for it, because we're the ones who are in fact directing you to go ahead and start putting out some RFPs for $5 million worth of paving. So
And
I don't know,
think-
whatever
I like-
that's worth, it's worth.
I like to add one more thing on here. If we could, if you want to, maybe as a council, we could drop a referendum, letting the public know our financial situation come November. You know, we could have them vote on it, say, listen, you know, we've been borrowing $2.5 million to meet the $5 million demand. We think it's unfeasible. Your taxes are gonna be raised this amount of money if you want to continue at this pace, or we could reduce it to 3 million. Tell me yes or no, whatever, you know what I mean? Something simple as that, where the public we could revisit it with the public. But right now, it's under law that we have to have 5 million for paving.
Michael, I just have a question for you. If the vendor does not meet the paving, the amount and get it done as contracted, do they finish the contract in the following year? Or do we receive reimbursement for what they didn't accomplish?
There's a time frame in the contract. Paving is supposed to be done by October 1st. Because, I mean, everybody knows the condition of our roads. We try to do what's right. I mean, you're not supposed to be paving unless it's 40 degrees and rising. You can't do it when it's raining, all these things. So we all know how our falls are. So we determined that we needed to be done paving by October 1. So, I mean, this past year, because of how the year went, we were not done. We paved right up until it was time for the plants to close. So, I mean, do the best I can for you. That's all I can do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Chairman. This ordinance that I have.
Go ahead, Judge, you have it.
Who's this? I just want to know, this ordinance says 500.
Go ahead, Judge. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That correct? This ordinance says 500,000?
Yes, it does. It would have to be amended. It would have to be amended to $2.5 million bond. Correct, Your Honor.
But the $500,000 is says here that the bond ordinance authorization of 500,000 serial bonds. That all we need is 500,000 serial bonds? That's what this reads.
That's correct. The loan would only have to be $500,000.
Only have to be $500,000. Okay, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you, Frank.
Correct, Your Honor.
Well,
All right. What I think council members are,
I got
as our
my hand
best
up.
directive is going to be, Heather, can you put? Oh, I didn't see it. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. All right.
Okay.
Joey, go ahead. You got the floor.
Yeah, just one thing. So, like all of us said here, obviously I've been on this, it's a year that I've been a council person, and I've been doing a lot of, last year I didn't really understand this plan a lot. I researched it a little bit now, and obviously like everybody else is talking, I agree 100% with Councilman DeBrango, but I think, Frank, I know we talked offhand about coming up with a different plan. I like the idea you had, with the curb to curb plan. Okay. Obviously, we do need to come up with a different plan. Okay. We definitely do down the road. So,
Correct.
I mean, we need to do that. And, and Mike, like I told you, you were there for me anytime when I called you this summer and I needed something. You've been helping me, and I understand where you're coming from, and I hope you understand where we're coming from. The major thing in this city is getting as many streets done as we can. I mean, they're a mess. There's some places that are brutal. And I think we have to make an attempt for our constituents and our taxpayers that we're doing the right thing. And if we got money left over next year, I got no problem next year if we got $2 million left over that we're paying a low interest on. The next year we only borrow, what is it, 1.5 or 2 million to make up the difference. That's all I got to say.
I don't think you listen to the way we do the bid, but that's okay. I've only been doing this for like 17 years.
Okay.
For you.
Well, I did listen to everything you said. You kept saying if we got money left over, it's low interest. So that's it. So, and
I never said anything about the money.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, that's all I wanted to tell you. Thank you so much.
I told you the way we do the bid. You make your decision based on that.
Heather, could you put together two payment schedules, one for the 5 million and the other one for the 2.5 million bond? So the council could know how much money is coming out of our budget for the next 15 years. In addition to that, Michael, maybe if you would be so kind, we can email, maybe some council members don't understand the bid process. Maybe we can help clarify it so they understand where you're coming from. Of course, this legislation is not unanimous. It will be subject to committee if the council doesn't mind. And after we gather more information, we'll go from there, if my colleagues are okay with that.
Frank, I gotta say something, Jack. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jack, you got the floor.
All right, Jesus. What, Mike, you might have already, and I apologize if you answered this already. For some reason, my computer's breaking up crazy today. If we did do the $5 million, can you get the $5 million, and you bid for the $5 million? Can you get that completed this year? What's your thought on that? And I apologize if you've already answered this.
My concern is supplies, which I've explained, on a $5 million bid. I mean, we put, it's more than one bid, first of all, because you do the mill and fill, if there's any road reconstruction, and then also the repairs contract. So there's 3 bids. So you divide it up based on the money that you have. So you want to get your best price. So you want to get the whole bid out as quickly as possible, because it's involving to put a bid together, and then it takes a month to get the bid back. There's an awful lot of feedback. I apologize.
But so the question is my question is, if you did figure out what your $5 million bid would be, how long, and you sent it out there, how long would you know before it's feasible, it's going to come back and you could do it?
It just depends on materials.
Right. And when would you know if you put it in February, what's the chances that you would have the material to complete the $5 million plan?
At this point, I'd say it's a 50-50 chance.
All right. All right.
I don't have anything else I can add.
Okay. No. Okay. Yeah, so you're 50-50. All right. You
guys have to understand how I bid. That's all. I mean, I can change the way I bid, but if I put out a bid in the middle of the summer for the second part of the money, just let you know you're paying a premium for that work. It's like go and try and buy a 2x4 at Lowe's right now.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, prices are
has
up.
joined the meeting.
So are you telling me you can't put on your initial bid? You can't put the $5 million bid out on the initial bid?
I don't think I would, because I'm concerned about the amount.
Concerned about the amount.
I'm concerned about the materials. I'm concerned about getting it done by October 1st.
Right. You would have more than one
best product. I absolutely agree with every single one of you that we need to pave roads. The roads are horrible. They only did $2 million for years and years and years. And they should have been doing probably million for years.
Has joined the meeting.
It just comes down to what we can do at this time with everything that's going on in our country. That's all. I mean, they didn't make Chevys. They aren't even making, because they can't get the parts, they're not making Chevys. So, I mean, you got to kind of look at supply and demand and materials that you can get.
So you think there's a chance that these asphalt plants, because of the COVID, could shut down because they get sick, and as well as the contractors that are putting the pavement down? Is that an issue this year?
And it's possible. I mean, hoping the people get vaccinated if they can roll it out.
Right.
Like I said, you guys decide what you want to do. I presented what I felt. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. That's your prerogative.
Okay. All right. And the last thing I'd like to say is that there's a lot of new people on the council that have not looked at the reach out on what this current plan, what it would do to us down the road in paying an interest. Before we vote on this, and we are gonna put it in the committee, and I think Frank already asked, that we actually get a printout exactly year by year, at the end of the 15 years, how much we're actually gonna be paying in interest. I just want everybody to take a look at that before they make this decision, because that is a big part of this decision that I just would ask everybody to take a look at. And I want everybody to feel comfortable to seeing what, 10 years or 13 years down the road, exactly what our payment is, payment plan per the interest on this loan is going to be. That's my last thought on this. And Heather, can we get that once we put this into committee?
Yes, I will do a memo. I pretty much had a lot of that done. I went through and did an analysis a couple years ago, by adding and at what point, would it level off, because we borrow for 15 years.
Right. I'd like
And our paving doesn't last for 15 years, but we're paying for it over 15 years. That's the life we have to. So I will get you something.
But I'd really like you to hit us in the face with that, because this is a tough decision for the people that are looking long term. And one of the reasons that I really wasn't all, I did vote for it, but one of the reasons that I was going to balk on it was because of the tremendous interest on the back end. But I just want everybody to be, and I'll go along with everybody, because I'm okay with it. But I just want everybody to know what the ramifications are going to be down the road. And we're all, I think we're all going to be around. We won't be on the council, but hopefully we'll all be living 15 years from now and paying on the taxes of the city. So if you could give us a blow by blow of that 15 years, and at the end of this, what it's going to look like, and on top of it, that the roads are actually lasting about 5 to 7 years. We're going to be paying stuff 15 years down the road that we've already dug up maybe twice. So please put that out there. I'm going to hold my.
Heather, could you? You're probably the last.
I'm going to hold.
All right, thank you, Jack. Heather,
yeah. So I just to close out. There was a word that was kind of used, and I want to be really clear. The word excuse. And us coming to you tonight was not an excuse to bring the paving from 5 to 3 million. We recognize that the roads are in bad shape. The mayor recognizes that. But we also recognize that that the feds are considering a significant infrastructure program. We also realize that there is cost savings and a huge expense associated with the timing of all of this. And as an example, and I'll be quick, a couple of weeks ago, we got a call from NYPA because one of our street lighting crews that's been out there working, and we're about 3/4 of the way done, all got COVID. So part of the project was shut down for 2 weeks. And so it's not just about the 3 million versus 5 million. We're working on a skeleton crew in City Hall right now so that we're protecting the people in here and out there. And so it's about bodies. It's about being able to get the work done. And it's also about making sure that we get the best value for the taxpayers. So it's not an excuse, and it's not the goal is to come to you and say every year, to come up with some plan. It really is a sincere recommendation from the administration so that things keep moving forward on a stable level. Frank, we can't hear you. You have to unmute. You have to unmute, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the Common Council. So I'd like to just leave this legislation in committee. I'd like to move forward to our pre-caucus meeting, and hopefully Heather and Mike will give us the facts we need to make a well thought out decision on paving for our future year, 2021. So I'd like to close this committee meeting, and you guys want a 5-minute break before we start our pre-caucus, or you want to start immediately?
I have to make that decision, not you.
Councilman Williamson, you're driving, so what's your call on that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, take 5, everybody. We're back in 5.
All right, you can just mute your mics.
Jack LaMedico? No Jack LaMedico yet. That's all I was waiting on.
Yeah. Text him real quick. Mark, I want to tell you, I texted him. Has anyone else contacted Jack?
Maybe he's in the bathroom.
I just called him and he says he's on, so I don't know if he, there he goes.
Okay.
There we go.
No problem. All right, call to order, Mark. You're good to go. It's live.
Okay, pre-caucus meeting. Resolution 1. Can you bring that down, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner of Deeds. Everybody's on this, full council? Everybody's good?
I'm good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Authorizing the mayor to enter into use of occupancy permits with the New York State Department of Transportation for purposes. Hey, I'm reading it. You just moved it down.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was showing the maps while you were reading it. All right, there you go.
All right. For purpose of public parking, accepting the use of occupancy. Hartnett, you want to talk about that? Attorney Hartnett? Ms. Hartnett?
Let me, it looked like she was unmuting there. Hang on just one second.
This is Brian Thomas. I can address any questions that the council might have.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, can you give us a summary on this, and the whole purpose of it, why we're doing it, and why the mayor sent it down, and why is the law department sending it down?
I'm here. Sorry, I was having some problems.
Okay, there you go, Kate. It's all you.
So the State Department of Transportation owns some land. Brian knows a little bit more about this than I do. This permit is going to allow the city to use and control this area for parking, as depicted on the maps, but Brian can probably give a better history than I can.
Yep, as part of the arterial project, there was land created over between Columbia and Lafayette Street next to the arterial, where the DOT created parking spaces. The mayor would like some of those spaces, about half of the spaces that are created in that lot, to be under the control of the city, but for public parking purposes to help with economic development downtown. We're also looking at a second area. The city has a $1.5 million grant through DASME to address downtown parking. And with part of that grant, we'd like to construct a parking lot under the Genesee Street overpass in Bag Square. We have a preliminary plan that shows about 150 parking spaces under there that will support development within the Bag Square area as well. We've approached DOT about both spots. They are state-owned land, and they have suggested that the use and occupancy permit is the way to go for the city to be able to use those parking spaces and develop the parking in the Bag Square lot. So on those permits, it would be 2 separate permits, one for each location. DOT does require that the Common Council authorize the mayor to sign those permits, and that's what we're asking for.
Okay, any questions, anybody?
I have a question. So I'm just trying to orient this is Celeste Friend. I'm just trying to orient myself on the map. So when I'm looking at the bottom map, in the upper right-hand corner of that photograph, is that PJ Green's? The big printing press company?
I believe it
Yeah.
is,
Was
but
Okay.
I don't have the drawing in front of me.
No, it is.
Oh, okay, it is.
It's Celeste. Yep.
Okay, so that one I can see. I can't figure, I'm still having a hard time figuring out where that other one is from looking at the map. So who wants to help me?
Celeste, I'll help. Since this is in my area, Celeste, I'll help
Great.
you. I talked
Great.
to Brian yesterday and explained it to you. So the easiest way to understand this is let's make believe you're going up North Genesee Street.
Yep.
You're bare to your right, okay? And it's the ramp that was closed down. Right now it's used for all the DOT trucks. It's right across from the federal building. It's under that bridge. It used to be a ramp that took you to John Street, and it's all closed down right now. So it's basically right now it's basically a parking area that they're using for construction of the trucks and everything that's for the work down there. I am correct, right, Mr. Thomas, from what we talked about yesterday?
That is correct, Councilman.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, but she's talking about the one up there by PJ Green.
That's the one.
Above it. No, the one above it. She's talking about the.
Oh.
No, I was trying to figure out where the yellow one was. I understand where the red one is. Now I'm just going to refer to the colors. The bottom one, the red one. I understand where that is because I know where PJ Green's is. It was the yellow one, but it's already a parking lot, correct?
It is currently a parking lot. Yes, we're asking for the city to be permitted for half of those spaces that are in that lot. It's right next to the arterial between Columbia and Lafayette Street.
Okay. So the only question I have then, thank you everybody for helping me just kind of orient myself. The only question I have is on the one on the bottom. So we're talking about taking out an awful lot of greenery, right? That always worries me when it comes to floodwater mitigation, surface water. Trees are such a great sort of big sponge to soak up excess rainwater. And I always worry when we take out a lot of greenery. So in that one on the bottom there, we'd be taking out an awful lot of trees, correct?
Well, it's really not a lot of greenery because it's under the overpass. So it's really just
That's the camera. That's made that way. Yeah, the only greenery is around Bag Square. If you look down in the lower left-hand corner, you see the Proctor monument down there. Down here in the lower left. That's
okay.
Under the bridge. There's really nothing there. They're not touching the trees around.
Because it doesn't.
Yeah, this was an old artist's rendering, Celeste. A lot of that stuff is just fictional, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. But the red shaded, thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
the
sorry.
red shaded area, but the red shaded area, we're not talking about taking that entire space, or we are. Most of that is not under an overpass. Most of it is outside of the overpass.
The whole thing looks differently, though. I mean, even if you look at the side, it's more accessible for like walkers and stuff like that. It has the black structures on that side ramp going up toward John Street. So the whole thing is like different.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder how old that is.
I know when I've been through there looking, I go by there every day. There's not much greenery over there right now. Basically, where the parking lot that they're talking about is being used right now it's a construction site for the most part. I don't think they're going any farther than that. Everything was all redone on the top part coming up North Genesee Street. It's all, they already have the bike lane up and the new sidewalks and, you know, then you take, you know, they eliminated that ramp and it seems to me, unless I'm wrong, but it seems to me that they're already using it for parking for trucks and construction area.
Yeah, a lot of this was already cleared. I just pulled up the Google images for everyone on the.
Is this your Google Earth, Michael?
Well, yeah, it is. So.
It might be out of date. We don't know how old it is, right?
Well, it is, but it is out of date. But this right here, this is what Councilman Beatrice was just talking about. They're already using this to prep trucks and all that stuff. So,
right.
You know,
Okay.
but that's the space if you want to go drive it, you know, tomorrow
Okay.
or later or whenever.
Okay.
Has there any studies been done for like the parking element? You know, Broad Street kind of right there seems like a potential, I guess, hazards. Maybe I'm trying to figure out, is there any study done about parking in that particular parcel where the trees are between Broad and John Street and kind of that division coming down?
Oh, in the land immediately east of PJ Green?
Yeah.
That's where Handshake City is currently located on a portion of that.
No.
It is.
No. I thought that the parking would be on that underpass.
The parking is, yes. I thought you were asking for additional parking possibilities.
Right. I'm saying, have there been any study about any potential hazards with parking under that bridge?
No, I understand now. I apologize. We've had discussion. Our engineering department has had discussions with DOT. We believe that we can design it in-house to so that all the parking is located safely, and that snow fencing can be put up by DOT to prevent any plows from pushing snow onto cars below.
Okay.
So we don't believe there's any hazards.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Heather's got her hand up.
I can't.
Heather.
For some reason.
That's old. I'm sorry. I just put it down. Hopefully, no.
All right, Jack. You got something, Jack?
I had a question on this. Is that looking at where it is? It is a nice piece of property we probably could use for parking, but
Judge Garland
has left the meeting.
My concern is how would the pedestrians get out of there to walk safely to get to where they want to go? It looks like is there going to be another walk put in there? A bridge over the street so people can actually walk through there? I don't see any egress for pedestrians to walk out of there, or. You know, and it's also close enough to Harbor Point where somebody could put some type of pedestrian egress in there. Are you guys looking into that at all? Because there is no way of walking out of there safely.
Yes, there's plenty of opportunities for pedestrian access, ingress and egress on all sides, whether it be on the Broad Street side or on the back side, closer to the train station or what was formerly the Children's Museum. There's pedestrian connections on all sides of the proposed lot.
So they'd have to go all the way north on that the north side of the red part, which would be the bottom of your screen. They'd have to walk underneath the bridge there to get to the other side, because you don't want them crossing that 4-laner coming off of North Genesee Street, would you?
4-laner.
No,
they won't be crossing that. They're under the bridge, Jack.
So they're right.
Correct.
So they'd have to put a walkway underneath that bridge.
Well, there will be a connection to Broad Street. The DOT, as part of the Route 5S project, has improved the pedestrian connections in there, and we'll be connecting with those. We'll be working with DOT closely on the design to make sure it's all done safely.
Well, that's the question. So you are working with DOT to put some egresses.
Oh, absolutely.
Because right now there aren't any. You know, you could run across
absolutely.
Broad Street, you could run across North Genesee Street, but I don't see. You know, maybe I might be missing it, but I just don't see a way once they park there how to safely get out of there without crossing 4-laners.
Jack, I don't think.
working with DOT.
Can I
So
ask
you're-
a question?
So you don't have a plan, you are working on a plan then, is that correct?
Yes, we've developed a preliminary plan, but we really need, in order to advance the design, we really need to get in there and do a survey. And as Councilman Beatrice mentioned, the 5S contractor is still occupying that property. We wanted to get the permit in place so that once the contractor's out of there, we can get in and do a survey and be able to advance the design.
Very good.
Hey, Jack,
Before we all turn to the Department of Transportation, one more.
okay.
Well, Mark, I thought that was a
Has
good
joined the
Question.
meeting.
I want to have a piece of property where people could walk out of. I just wanted to make sure there was plans going on
Right.
for that. All right, Joe, I'm sorry.
I have a
No,
question.
Jack, I was just gonna tell you real quick, North Genesee is not even involved in this. North Genesee goes up over the top. This is something like you'd be parking there, they'd have to do a crosswalk so you could walk to Utica Coffee, on to the right, or you'd go to the left to go like over by the train station. But the North Genesee part is over the top of it, just so, you know what I mean?
Right, and I'm just trying to look a little ahead because the
Yeah.
Harbor Point coming in, that, we don't have a ton of parking for Harbor Point at this time. So
Right.
as long as they're looking into we're on the committee, Joe, and you.
Right, yeah,
So this
right.
would be ideal parking for the overflow parking for Harbor Point. So as they're designing this, I just want them to keep that in mind, that there probably should be an egress somewhere where there's a little trail they could park there and walk up to Harbor Point.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I guess this is sort of like Delvin's question, and it's for Commissioner Thomas. Have we done sort of, what's the data like on how much parking we need? I mean, I think that there's sort of this blanket assumption that we always need more parking. And I think that studies have shown the more parking you offer, the more people will drive. And it's, nature abhors a vacuum. It's not obvious to me that we need more parking. I'd like to see what the actual data shows about how much parking we need in different parts of the city, especially sort of in comparison with the garages we have, some of which need to be repaired and would then be able to accommodate more vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. I'm kind of skeptical of this general idea that we ought to always make more parking, especially in a city where we're kind of landlocked. Land is so precious. I hate to give it up to parking all the time.
Okay,
Well, can I
move
answer
this
that?
forward? Okay.
Commissioner Thomas, just one thing. We are getting a huge grant money for this parking area. Am I right?
We are. There's a $1.5 million grant from DASNY that we're trying to put into place, and the state is asking for our plan. A major chunk of that will go towards the creation of this parking here in Bag Square. And if I can just address Councilwoman Friend's comment about the availability of parking. If you look in the Bag Square area, there is a lot of building space that right now is being underutilized, that once that gets filled, and there are developers at the table that have plans in the works to develop a substantial amount of space throughout Bag Square, there is going to be a parking need, and that's what we're looking to address ahead of that. You've got a developer that's been a part of the DRI process that is looking at that has purchased several properties on Hotel Street and has plans to develop there. They are going to need parking in order to fully develop their properties, as well as others. Doyle Hardware also has its own parking lot, but again, they could always use additional space even now.
Well, you have the new law department kitty corner to that too, Thomas.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you. Are there just like studies out there in general though that will tell you that for X number of square feet of office space or X number of square feet of residential space, you need Y number of parking spaces? Are we going on that, or are we just, what's the actual data that drives this? That's my general question, but I appreciate that you've addressed it.
At this point, it's looking at the space that's available, that's underutilized, and knowing what the metrics are in terms of what kind of uses there are being proposed and what kind of a need there's going to be. And we're trying to address it before it gets to a point where developers are asking for the development of more parking.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, we're all good with this? Gonna move it forward?
Just one other thing. Celeste, you go down Utica Coffee, you can never even get a parking spot over there.
I was just going to say that, but I wanted to end it.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
All right,
Fair point, yeah.
okay, okay, can we go to the next one, please? All right. Resolution of adopting local government records retention and disposition schedule LGS-1 for use by the city of Utica. Kate?
Hi. So this is a new records retention schedule put out by the New York State Archives. It actually replaces several other records retention schedules that applied to municipalities, including cities, towns, and counties, replaces all of those. And it basically dictates when we can destroy certain records. And we can't destroy any records if we don't adopt this plan for records retention, which is kind of difficult. We do not have a lot of spare room for storage for record keeping anywhere in the city. So it's important that we are eliminating records as we are allowed to do so if they don't have any historical value. And that's why I'm asking the council to approve this resolution tonight. And I would also like to add that our police department is accredited. It's a kind of a difficult process to receive that accreditation, and it means that our police department is engaging in best practices. And to maintain their accreditation, they need to show that they are in compliance with this particular records retention schedule. So I would ask the board or the council to approve this tonight.
Any questions? Okay, next.
I had a question, sorry. Are we talking about paper records, I assume, not digital records?
Yes, this has to do with paper records. I believe that technically it would also apply to digital records, but digital records are not the concern. The concern
Right.
is paper records. We have no room for storage. And certain different records have to be maintained for different lengths of time.
So how old are we talking about here, what we would start disposing of?
Well, actually, I did not include it, but maybe I did include it. I think I might have. There is a 400-page, the actual guidelines. It's a 400-page PDF, so it's all different depending on the type of records we're talking about.
Right.
And that I thought I had sent it with the legislation. If not, Councilwoman, I will send you the link to the New York State Archives website that includes the PDF. It's very specific. It covers everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all we're doing here is getting ourselves in alignment with New York State law that says after X period of time, you can throw this kind of record away.
That's
Correct?
exactly what it is. Yes.
Okay, I'm good with this then. Thank you.
Okay, so council, we're not doing Watergate, so we're moving forward. Okay.
No, not with this resolution.
Okay, next, please. No parking during certain hours, Councilman McNeil. All right, I'm okay with it. Next.
The next two pieces are the pieces that were brought up in the committee. They're now in the packet.
Let's determine that proposed action, type 2 action, purpose of New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And who sent this down?
This is the paving stuff that you guys went over in committee. It's just in the packet now.
Right.
All the secrets.
Both pieces has to be referred to committee, Mark. Both
Okay,
pieces.
so you're going to refer both of those for the finance piece?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's determine that the proposed action is a type. Same thing. Is that it, Michael?
That's all you have in the packet this evening, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I make a motion to quit the pockets.
Councilman Beatrice.
Okay, there's a second from Beatrice. All right, so it's 6:43 right now. I'm going to call the main meeting to order at 7 p.m. So let's all be on a few minutes prior, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, just mute your mic and keep this link open. so I can call to order. All right, thank you. It is January 20th, 7:01 p.m. I'll call this meeting of the City of Utica Common Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Moody, Beatrice, Williamson, Lometico, DeBrango, Bellini, present.
Thank you very much. Everyone, please remember to mute if you're not speaking. And we're now going to say the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
United States of America.
and to the republic for which it
Republic, which
one nation,
stands,
One
one nation, under
indivisible,
God,
There's
with
liberty,
justice for all.
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. All right, our first order of business is public hearing. We have no legislation or any public hearings this evening that were advertised or called for, so the public hearing is now closed. Next order of business, we do have the minutes. Do we have a motion to waive the reading of the minutes?
Motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Moody. Who was the second?
Williamson.
All right, thank you. Quick roll call vote on that. Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Yes.
Miola.
Yes.
Miola. Thank you. Moody.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Lometico.
Yes.
DeBrango.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we're good to go. All right. Clerk, do we have any miscellaneous communications? Cash reports, etc.
No. Yep, I do have the cash report, City of Utica cash report for January 2021, totals 24 million, received and filed.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to move to the updates from the department heads. Deputy Chief Noonan, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, we as a department, we receive quarterly reports from as far as crime stats from across the state, and one thing that stands out is that gun violence across the state has increased significantly, and we're not alone. We're not immune here in Utica. I just want to commend the men and women of our department. Over the last 30 days, they've taken 13 handguns off the street and made, I think it's 23 arrests associated with those handguns. So, they're out there working hard. It's very dangerous work, especially, with regards to gun violence. And I just wanted to give kudos to them for all their hard work that they do day in and day out.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can I ask one question?
Yes, you may. You have the floor, Councilman DeBrango.
Chief, when these people get caught in possession of guns, are they released automatically? You just give them a ticket, or are they jailed? What is the circumstance?
So Councilman, no, they're not. And I've been asked this question a lot. The bail reform does not impact these charges for the most part. Majority of these individuals are held on bail. Many of them do post bail and are released. But generally speaking, I think Councilman Moody said it best. I think he was on the radio last week, and I heard him, and he was talking about some of the gun violence, and I think there's a mindset out there because of some of the reforms that there's no repercussions for their actions, and I think it's caused somewhat this increase in gun violence because there's this false perception that there's no repercussions for possessing a handgun or committing violent acts with a handgun. So I think we really need to work as a community, to get that message out there that we're not going to tolerate it as a community. We're not going to tolerate it as a police department. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but they are being held, but many of them are bailing out and just continuing to commit the same acts.
Thank you.
Okay. Assistant Chief Noon, representing the fire department. You have the floor.
Nothing to report tonight, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Thomas, do you have anything else you'd like to report? If you can, yeah, there we go. You're now unmuted.
Nothing to report.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hartnett with Corporation Counsel.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
All right, that does, if I don't believe we have Commissioner Short on, let's see if he's in the list. No. Okay, that closes the departmental reports. Thank you very much. Before we move on to petitions, remonstrances, and legislation from the floor, I'd like to note that we do have public comment on the order of business, although no one signed up to speak at the public comment. So we're moving on to the next order of business, petitions, remonstrances, and legislation from the floor. Councilman Burmaster, 2nd District, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to reiterate on how well the police department and deputy chief have been handling the different calls, and they had 58,000 calls for the year, and I want to commend the people in blue for keeping us safe, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much, Mr. President. That's all I have this time.
Thank you. 3rd District, Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to echo what Councilman Burmaster just said. I think the issue of getting the guns off the streets is particularly encouraging, and I particularly commend the police department for that. And I think that's kind of, it's like policing at its best, because it's proactive, getting guns off before they've been used, before they've killed anybody. There's a lot of personal danger there, but also a lot of really smart split-second decisions. And I deeply appreciate guns getting off the street. There are far too many guns out there. And every time we take a gun off the street, I think that's a really great thing. So thank you for that. And then I just want to extend a congratulations to Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden, as they begin the great work of leading this country to a brighter and healthier future. I wish them all the luck in the world. I wish them the best for their families and for themselves in these days ahead. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. 4th District, Councilman and President Pro Tem Frank Miola, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'll help out a little bit of this legislation so you're not all cumbersome at the end. I'd like to move legislation resolution number 1 concerning all the commissioner deeds. Hereby be it resolved. Oh, do I need a motion, sir?
Yes, you do.
Second, or you want me to read it?
Oh, no, I'm just waiting for the second. Do we have a second on that? DeBrango's the second. Thank you. Please read the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Be it resolved, the Common Council does hereby appoint the following persons as Commissioner of Deeds for the City of Utica for 2-year terms commencing January 20th, 2021, ending December 31st, 2022. Gertrude Nitty, Joe H. Habaika III, Michael Ruggiero, Estella Cole, Wendy Atkins, Lorraine Kowalski, Cynthia Pruitt, Ruth Conception, John Goff II, Primera Pret, Joseph M. Fergal, Jack Lemenico, Gina Habaika, John H. Garfield Jr., Sandra Gambino, Martha Ann Makowitz, Jennifer A. Gorowski. Mr. President, I'd like to introduce these Commissioner Deeds for the Council's consideration.
All right, it's up for a vote. Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Yola.
Yes.
Moody,
Yep.
Beatrice,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Lemetico, Lemetico, Councilman Lemetico, you still with us? DeBrango, your vote?
Rango, yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Councilman Lemetico is giving me a call here. Hang on just 1 second. There might be a technical issue.
Celeste, you might want to mute.
We have the majority, so he gets that fixed, we just move, right?
All right, clerk, just let it reflect that Jack did call and say his vote was yes. He is going to disconnect and reconnect right now. So he was on for all of the reading of the legislation. I'm just going to take a 1 minute pause while he disconnects and reconnects to the meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, Councilman Miola. But that one was 8 yeas and it passed. Resolution 1.
I think Jack's back. Do you want me to continue?
I was just waiting for him to announce himself. I figured he'd be back in, say something when he shows up here. Councilman Lemetico, do we have you? All right, I'm gonna take a different path for this. Hang on, I'm just gonna call him from the meeting on his cell phone. All right, so just give me 1 second. Hello. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to mute the audio on the iPad so you can still see it, and I'm gonna call your cell phone from the meeting. All right, I'm dialing Councilman Lemetico in right now. It'll be just another moment.
Has joined the meeting.
Yay.
Okay.
I hung up on you because it came from San Francisco. I thought that it was somebody selling me some car insurance.
No, it's probably just the server it's on. All right, so you're in the meeting now. Councilman Miola, you may continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move proposed ordinance number 4, sponsored by Councilwoman McNeil, for no parking during certain hours.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a second for no parking during certain hours?
Second.
All right, DeBrango was the second on that. Clerk, Councilman Miola, can you please read the legislation?
To be it ordained that Section 2-16-361, Schedule F, no parking during certain hours, be amended to include the following. Bleecker Street, north side, from northeast corner of the intersection of Genesee Street and Bleecker Street to a point of 170 feet east of the same intersection, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., December 1st to April 1st. Bleecker Street, south side, from Genesee Street, from the fronting of 120 Bleecker Street, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., December 1st to April 1st. Be it further ordained, this proposal signage is the signage should be erected as soon as necessary.
Your votes, Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Miola.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Lematico. DeBrango.
Yes.
Engaged adopted. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to committee resolution number 5 and resolution number 6.
All right, there's a motion to introduce and place in committee.
Second.
All right, we have a second from Moody. Your votes to place that in committee, or 4 and 5 in committee.
Well, no, 5 is an
Master.
And 6.
6 is
5 and 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5 and 6. Sorry. Had the wrong numbers. So the resolutions that have been introduced and seconded are a resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for the purpose of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. The project is various city streets, roads, including sidewalks, curbs, gutters, drainage, landscaping, etc., with flexible pavement of type described in local finance law, and the bond ordinance authorizing the issuance of 500,000 serial bonds of the city of Utica, Oneida County, New York, to finance the cost of street paving projects. Your votes to place these in committee. Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Miola.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Lematico.
Yes.
DeBrango.
Yes.
Those are in committee. Thank you very much. Councilman Miola, do you have anything else?
Just one more, Mr. President, if you don't mind. I'd like to remove something out of committee. It's resolution number 14 dated 1/6. It's an appointment for the Ethics Committee, Emily Raymond.
Okay, let's see here. Let me pull that up. It was in the Public Safety Committee or Committee of the Whole? It was Committee of the Whole.
It was Committee of the Whole, Mr. President.
All right, is there a second?
Burmaster.
Your votes to pull this from committee. Burmaster?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Ola?
Yes.
Moody?
No.
Beatrice?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Lomatico,
Yes.
Brango.
Yes.
All right, it's 1 nay. Moody, please let the record show. Clerk, it is out of committee and now on the floor. Would you like to debate and or bring this right to a vote, Councilman Miola?
Mr. President, I'd like to bring it right to a vote, please.
Okay. Your votes.
Can I ask a question? Can I
Yes,
ask
you
a
may.
question?
Yes, you have the floor.
There was an issue at our last meeting about the necessity of there being at least one Republican on this. Did that question get settled?
Good point.
That's why I voted no.
Okay.
Celeste, if you check with our city clerk, she did the investigating on it, and there's only one Democrat on there, and we can add two more, because there's a maximum of 3. So Emily is a Democrat, and she is applicable for this position.
All right, that settles it. Your vote, Councilperson Friend.
Yes.
Miola.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Beatrice.
No.
Williamson.
Yes.
Lomatico.
Yes.
DeBrango. DeBrango.
Yes.
All right. 7 yeas. Adopted.
Thank you,
Councilman Miola,
Mr.
floor is
President.
back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all set.
All right, thank you very much. 5th District, Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to first by thanking the men and women in the police force. I think that they're doing an impeccable job with trying to combat the issue of gun violence, with trying to take guns off the street. I think that is admirable work, and I think we should always commend them for the work that they're doing in the city of Utica. I've been meeting a lot with Jack Lomatico, Councilman Lomatico, about these very same issues, and hopefully there'll be more information coming about how we can curtail some of the violence that we're seeing in the city. And I want to thank him for his support on some of these issues in Cornhill, that not just Cornhill issues, but issues that particularly affect the 5th Ward, but ultimately can improve Utica as a whole. With regard to that, the Police Reform Committee will be meeting this Thursday, and I will give an update after that meeting in our next council meeting. And I also want to say I will be pulling the legislation that I in committee with regard to Dr. Morris Pearson being on the Ethics Committee. And it was supported for Emily Raymond. I don't know her personally, but I certainly support the intuition and support of the other council members. But I will say that I hope that if another opportunity arises, I'm on the Ethics Committee that we can support Dr. Morris Pearson, who does this work every single day. And on the other side of this too, I think that there may be some invested additional work in the Ethics Committee coming from the Police Reform Committee. And I would like to see a person from Cornhill, a person who knows the people in the area, highly educated, and a person of color serving on this Ethics Committee. And so hopefully in the future, the council will support that. But with that, Mr. President, I would like to pull resolution number 10, appointing Dr. Morris Pearson to the Ethics Board. I'd like to pull that from committee. I don't think there's a formal motion that needs to be laid just to forfeit that legislation. Mr. President. Did we lose the president of the council?
If there's nobody sponsoring it, Delvin, that means it's off the table automatically.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure, but that's all I have, Mr. President.
Oh, I was muted. I'm sorry. Councilman Moody, I was just stating that as we did at the last meeting, if you want to dispense with this, just make a motion to dispense with the legislation that's in committee.
Yep, that's what I was. A motion to dispense resolution 10.
All right. Is there a second?
Brango.
Brango's the second. Your votes, Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Miola.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Lometico. Lometico. Seems we've lost Lomatico. It's okay. We still have quorum. DeBrango?
Yes.
Thank you. That would be... All right, so this has been dispensed. Thank you. Anything else this evening, Councilman Mooney?
No, that's all, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. 6th District. Councilman Joe Beatrice, you have the floor.
Yes. The only thing I want to say is I'm not going to reiterate the same thing. I want to agree with all the other council persons and with Deputy Chief Noonan has to say about what a great job they're doing. And so it's amazing. I like when I see all your Facebook posts on how you confiscated another gun, and I think you guys are doing a great job. And the last thing I want to state is on the vote for the Ethics Committee, I did vote no for the one simple reason. I did not know. I knew one of the three persons. I knew John Ciccarelli, and I was not sure if that was going to be coming out. I did not know the other people. I'm sure Emily will do a great job, and I just don't know her, and I didn't know who Delvin nominated, and I did know the other person. So I just wanted to state that. So best of luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything else this evening?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Council at Large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Likewise, the police department, bravo Zulu to you. Great job. Great social media content going out and getting people informed. And, maybe put that bail reform out. Maybe that'd be another way of getting that message out that you will be held accountable for your actions. And, you're just not going to, get out of jail the minute you get arrested. So, no, I think that's great. And congratulations on all your arrests. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilman Lomatico, it looks like you're unmuted. Do you have audio?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is petitions, remonstrances, and appeals.
Raj, I got you. Well, I can't start without mentioning the PD and the arrest, the weapons arrest they made. I think they're doing a wonderful job. I'm sure that the people that they're working with, I'm glad that the community is now working with the police department. This is something that is going to curb this gun violence, and I think kudos to the residents of Cornhill, West Utica, East Utica, North Utica, for working with the police, because this is how we fix our community. And that just brings me into what Delvin was talking about. One of the issues you have with this is that once these kids start carrying guns and shooting each other, the only people that really could step in and actually do the arrests are the police and law enforcement. What myself and Delvin are looking at is starting down the road to a little grassroots organization that will get these kids before they turn and they get involved in these these gangs and everything. That's where the real issue is. One of the things that we were talking to a gentleman, myself and Delvin, on a phone, a professor from New York City, and he mentioned, he says, the only way you're ever going to turn this around, He says you got to get them when they're in junior high. He says the best way to figure out who your criminals are going to be, 5, 6 years from now, or the kids that are going to need intervention 5 or 6 years from now, ask their teachers and ask their counselors. Those are the ones you should be working with. These are the kids we should be working with nowadays, because these are the kids that we can turn around and alleviate some of the crime that we're going through right now. These kids aren't criminals. They might be thinking the wrong way when they're in junior high and freshman, junior and high school, but they still could be turned around if you give them other ways to move on with their life. You give them some goals to meet, and that's what me and Delvin are going to be looking at down the road. And Delvin, I really appreciate you mentioning that initially, because this is something that we need to get these kids before they actually get the guns, and that's what we're going to be looking into. And second, and just as important as, I got to congratulate our president, Joe Biden, and our vice president, Kamala Harris. There's a lot of people that aren't happy about the election, but the way the president goes is the way the United States goes and the way the world goes. So if we don't back them 110%, we're only hurting ourselves. As an officer in the United States Army, and my job was to protect the people of the United States, and it was also follow my commander in chief. And right now, Joe Biden is our commander in chief. So if you want things to work out, you got to work with them. You work against them, nothing's going to get done, and it's just going to get worse out there. So put your feelings away. Give the guy a chance. Give our vice president a chance, and let's see how things are going. You can't go into an election and when he gets elected, figure out the next 4 years how you're going to get rid of him, because that doesn't do anything for the United States. Doesn't do anything for the people of the United States. So I'll leave it on that. I congratulate both of them, and I wish them both well in their endeavors, and hope they make the United States a better place than it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman DeBrango, Council at Large DeBrango, you have the floor, and I just want to note there's 2 more pieces of legislation we have not touched yet.
I know. I got you.
Thank you.
Just a couple things. I know Councilman Lemetico made a point. It takes a community effort with this the gun violence. So I commend all the people in the community that are maybe aware of what's going on, and maybe letting the police officers know where they're traveling, what's going on, and maybe that's helping a little bit stopping these vehicles and getting the guns off the street. So I'm with the rest of the council. I think the PD is doing a great job with that. With that being said, I'm going to introduce resolution number 2, authorizing the mayor to enter into use and occupancy permits with the New York State Department of Transportation for purposes of public parking and accepting use and occupancy. Can I get a second on that?
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Would you like to summarize it, or do you want me to read it?
You could read it there, Mr. President.
Thank you. Whereas the city is desirous of increasing public parking throughout the downtown in support of increased residential activity and economic development, and whereas state-owned land on the east side of North-South Arterial, NY 5812, between Columbia and Lafayette Street, as well as a parcel of land underneath Genesee Street overpass in Bag Square, presents 2 opportunities for the city to increase the supply of parking. And whereas the State Department of Transportation process allowing the city to utilize said lands for public parking requires the city to enter into a use and occupancy permit with the DOT. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Utica, New York does hereby authorize the mayor to enter into 2 separate use and occupancy permits with the State Department of Transportation, 1 for a portion of the state-owned land on the east side of the North-South Arterial between Columbia and Lafayette Streets, and 1 for the parcel of land underneath the Genesee Street overpass at Bag Square. And be it further resolved that the Common Council of the City of Utica, New York hereby accepts use and occupancy for both locations. Location number 1, location number 2. Okay, your votes. Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Viola.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Beatrice. Williamson.
Yes.
Yes.
Lemetico. DeBrango.
Yes. Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you very much, Clerk.
Up next, I'd like to introduce resolution number 3, adoption of New York State Local Government Records, LGS-1.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Burmaster.
Burmaster's the second. All right, resolved by the Common Council of the City of Utica that the retention and disposition schedule for the New York Local Government Records LGS-1 issued pursuant to Article 57A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records is hereby adopted for use by all officers in legally disposing of valueless records listed therein. Further resolved that in accordance with Article 57-A, only those records will be disposed of that are described in retention and disposition schedule for New York LGS-1 after they have met the minimum retention periods described therein. B, only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum periods. Your votes, Burmaster.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Miola.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Lamatico.
Yay.
DeBrango.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you very much, Councilman
That is
DeBrango.
all I have, Mr. President. That's all I have.
All right, so before anyone offers a motion to adjourn, I'd like to just, I know some of us did, but congratulate new President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, and just welcome to the party. Here we are. All right, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Frank Miola.
All right, do we have a second? All right. Have a great evening, everyone. The meeting is adjourned.